This is my second attempt at doing this video, because the first time I tried it, my camera was upside down, and that made the comic look like an arty, abstract mess. This one is part 2 of the Christopher Clairvoyant XMen's story with the Reavers. I did part 1 yesterday, and this is part 2. This is a cover here. We have got Squealy up top, and then, oh, bit of victory, he forgot an H from the O. Guest starring Freedom Fog, and this is Fog here, but he doesn't look very free. And then we have got the Smurf woman there, she is holding the body, or this is the woman that was rambling on and on about crystals last issue. She is Irene Adler from Sherlock's. We start off this one, and I forgot to mention last issue, the art. The art is by Marc Stanley Lee. That is Stanley Lee's brother. And the art is very, very good. It communicates action very well. And some would say that perhaps Marc Stanley Lee is too good an artist to be wasted on a Christopher Clairvoyant story. What happens is, the Excellent Men are fighting the Reavers. They're the baddies. And Squealy is doing his squealing. And then Miss Magnet, who has transitioned from being a woman into being She-Hulk, she is fighting them as well. And then we have got Christopher Clairvoyant, a strong writer of women. He does something he always does. Has a male character try and mentally control the woman. And of course, the woman likes it. Filthy, filthy man. And then what happens is, Squealy and Miss Magnet, they try to run away, but they hit an invisible wall and they get knocked out. And you're probably thinking that something like an invisible wall that is so prominent in this sequence, surely that will be explained later, or it'll be seen again, but no, it's not. Or you've just got to assume what it is, and the assumption is it doesn't work. Then we have got this here. This is a really good bit of visual storytelling. We have got the evil Brotherhood of Evil Excellent Men. They have come to help the Excellent Men fight the Reavers, because they've realised that the Reavers are the greater evil. And here's the bit I'm talking about. Marc Stanley Lee really doing well here. We have got Blob Brevo. He's really just a dot there. Then he's getting bigger and bigger, and then he lands, and then boom! That is really good. That is really good visual storytelling. It would be absolutely ruined if Christopher Clairvoyant had his normal rubbish like written here. Like saying, oh, from this height I could see that my life is at its absolute low. And as I keep falling, I worry that I will hit rock bottom. And once I hit rock bottom, I won't be able to pick myself back up again. And then the deer will always be there. And then I'll go, just rubbish like that. Then there's loads of fighting. And we have got this subplot here in Japan with ninjas. Because when I think of the Excellent Men, I always think of ninjas. What this is the origin of the character known as Fetish Fuel. This is before she became Fetish Fuel. She was a British person. Next issue shows how she becomes Fetish Fuel. And here we have got the strong writer of female characters. Look, the man is carrying a woman, and she's like hitting him, saying, "Let me go, you filthy patriarchal swine." We have got loads of fighting, actually. Loads of fighting. Smurf woman tells Folk to go and protect Irene. Fighting, and what ninja lady cuts one of them up, and then Blob Brevo tries to run away, and he falls in some water because Blob Brevo is a coward. And like, it's all really good. The action is really good. I don't like Christopher Clairvoyant's writing, but the thing is, Christopher Clairvoyant is, in my opinion, a bad comics writer. Whereas someone like Gabby Rivera from America, she is just a bad writer. Whereas a bad comics writer is able to write comics, albeit badly. This is a good. If I'm being honest, I was really harsh on the last issue, and I'll probably be harsh on this by the end. But I think the actual core story here, with all the action set pieces, with the Reavers, and with the Excellent Men and the evil Brotherhood of Evil Excellent Men, I think it's all told quite well. But it's just everything else that I don't like. Like, for example, here is a complete waste of a page. We have got Fogg and Irene, they're just talking, and she is prattling on doing her normal rubbish about seeing the future and being all like cryptic and stuff. And then at the end of this, we have Legions show up, and what happens is Legions kills Irene, but we don't see that. It's like, that should be up there. Just get rid of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Get rid of those 6 panels because they're worthless. Put that at top and then show them killing her. But all we really get to see is Smurf woman. She feels her dying in her mind. And then what happens is, right, this is the closest we get to having the invisible wall explained. The fireman Sam, he is using his fire powers to fight the Reavers, and suddenly the fire goes off. And then we have this one picture of Legions, Dan Stevens there. The idea, you're left to assume, well, I suppose it is clearly communicated, it is just not obvious. The idea is that Legions, Daniel Stevens, he's the one that's cut off the fire, because in the last issue we saw that his personality was one of the bad ones. So I assume the idea is meant to be that the invisible wall from page 4 or whatever it was, this invisible wall there, that is meant to be Legions doing. But the problem with that idea is, as we see in that page with Fogg and Irene, Legions actually wasn't in the battlefield. He was coming out of the base there, so he wasn't actually there to put up that invisible wall. So the idea doesn't work, and of course there's no outright explanation for the invisible wall. It's just an assumption you make, because we see this bit with the fire, and then this big man here, he dies, and fireman Sam is sad, and it's done well, that bit. And then Fogg shows up and he shoots one of the Reavers in half. And something else that Marc Stanley Lee does well, he draws really attractive women. Like Smurf woman, even though she is a Smurf, I would still have a go on her. And then the Reavers, because they're getting beat, they decide to go home. And this is another thing that Christopher Claremont does awfully, balancing characters, because here we have got 3 characters that have not appeared in the comic already. This is the boring hooker, and these are the 2 racist people that are Native Americans. But the thing is, they haven't been in this comic yet. They were in part 1, but they weren't. Why weren't they involved with all the fighting? And then we also have characters from part 1 that aren't mentioned at all. Like in this one, at the end, we had got Hermione and her friend, the Nazi person. They had been captured and tied up by the Reavers, but they're not mentioned at all in this one. And also we have got Squealy and Miss Magnets. They were fighting, and then they got knocked out by the invisible wall, and they're not mentioned again. Like, you just forget half of the characters. Oh, we also had, of course, Sunder, not Strong Guy, you fucking idiot. Right, we saw in this, he got shot from behind and he lived, but then he got shot from behind again, and we were meant to think that he died, but there is no reference at all to if Sunder lived or died in this one. So it is just, he is not very good at juggling all of his ideas, and the problem is most of his ideas are awful. Then what happens is Fogg and Squealy have a pint of beer and they shake hands, and then we have this here. This is awful. What's happened is, he has made Storms, his favourite character of all time, he has made Storms into a little child now. Because you see, he has already made Storm the goddess of an African nation, the queen of a sideways dimension that is ruled over by a giant dog with a necklace. He's already made Storms the most desirable bride for Mr. Doom and Dracula and virtually every villain in the Marvel Universe. He has already had Storms prove that she is the only person that can ever lead the Excellent Men's well by beating Cyclist in a fight. He has also had Storms lose all of her powers and prove that she is just perfect even without the powers. He has had Storms fight African and Native American god entities all by herself, and he has realised that he has run out of ways to prove that Storms is perfect. So what he has done is he has transformed her into a teenage girl to say, look, she is even perfect as a teenage girl. And we pretty much end there. and there's an advert on the back. As I said, I don't like Christopher Claremont. I think he is rubbish. But there are parts of these two comics and the art that are good. Like, I think the action scenes are done well. I think that I quite like that there's this odd set of characters. I think Legions is fun. I think that bit with Hermione, where she was doing her magic, was good. I thought the bit with Blob Brevo in this was good. Like, all the action bits are good, and it's just he forgets half his stuff, and when he isn't forgetting stuff, he is writing awful, like, teenage angst poetry, and or he's just writing about strong female characters that aren't strong female characters, right? So the thing is, read these stories, but like only half read them because a lot of them is dross. So in total, I rate this comic 7 thumbs up.